Hello, Full Metal family. Welcome to another episode of the Full Metal Cast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and spending your valuable time. Quick disclaimer about today's video, though. The audio sucks. There's just no way around it. I had the opportunity to stay at a good friend's house while I was traveling out of state. Had a great conversation, well over an hour of just back and forth between two dudes talking about guy shit. However, because I was in a hurry to set it up, ended up buying a microphone different than mine. I knew nothing about how to set things up properly, how to balance the microphones. We went from filming outdoors to filming in a very uninsulated, not very sound-friendly basement. So there was mic echo, there was room echo. It sounded atrocious, and I didn't even want to post it. I spent hours playing with the equalizer, several different audio effects in the editor that I use. I even employed the help of an AI, which actually helped tremendously, and you might be surprised when you tune in and actually listen to it, because it just doesn't sound good. It's not the quality that I want to hold myself to. And again, I really didn't even think I wanted to post this, but the conversation was good. I had a fun time just catching up with a good friend of mine. And I figured, what the hell, I'll put it out there. If you guys don't like it, that's totally fine. You don't need to listen to the whole thing, but I still wanted to put it out there. And again, not the quality of work I'm proud of or want to hold myself to, and I promise it'll never happen again. I actually learned a lot about sound editing and how I can make each episode a little bit better too. So going forward, even the solo episodes will sound a little bit better. But again, just wanted to give a heads up, and I do apologize, but I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope you get something out of it. As always, leave a DM, leave a comment. Please engage, like, subscribe, whatever it is, and stay metal. Thank you. There is nothing more despicable than an old man who has no other proof than his age to offer of his having lived long in this world. Seneca.
This is nice. It is. And with that, I am going to kick it off.
Okay.
Welcome back, Full Metal family, to the 7th episode of the Full Metal Cast. We are filming on location, out of state, Jesus, with just Dan. I'm taking off these headphones. Just Dan and I have been friends for many years now, met through mutual friends. I think we'll just put it for the sake of the podcast here. But Dan shares the same tisms as I do as it comes to bourbon and whiskey, which we are enjoying now. But why don't you introduce yourself for the people and then pass me that later too?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Been following the cast and trying to support wherever I can. Obviously got a Full Metal humidor and just loaded it up with 20 cigars today. But in terms of the tisms, I have a lot of them. From being more of a snob in bourbon, I think that kind of launched when we went down to Kentucky. Kind of learned how to taste it and how to do everything properly, and that opened up a whole nother world, because we were just drinking whiskey beforehand, and it was, we were just doing whatever. Not really knowing what to pick out, the nuances, and didn't know we liked barrel proof stuff. And I love going back there. I would love to get back down to the bourbon trail at some point.
Yeah, that was a great trip. Highly recommend it for anyone who has not made the sort of pilgrimage out there, if you will. But I do have some warm-up questions. Okay. So, sort of kick things off. Let me go to this tab over here. We're going to start with 3 hot or nots, I think. Opinion, hot or not, college.
Not anymore. At one point, very hot.
And I'm gonna need a why too to each of these.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just getting further removed from being in school, and the real world is just so much different. We just got into a house here, and it's been a lot more work than I ever could have imagined. And I'm starting to feel old. So
that's fair. So college, not. How about IPAs?
Oh, that's a hot one. I think I like it hot. Yeah. Really depends on the IPA. There's way too many out there. Most of the time I'm a Pabst Blue Ribbon guy, but every once in a while I can enjoy an IPA in the summer. So they got to be light though. They can't be like that heavy piney shit.
Yeah, I guess it's the hoppiness. I don't know. There's a lot of a sort of bitter, clovey thing going on that I really don't like, which really kind of turned me off from IPAs. But they're not for me rather. In the summer, I'm reaching for a shandy or like a Mexican beer.
Dude, last night we had I tried a Bush Peach.
And
dangerous.
Really?
Yeah, dangerously good. Yeah, I will say it kind of tastes a little bit more like a seltzer, but you can feel like 10% more of a man when you order one rather than just sitting there and drinking a White Claw. The Bush Peach by the pool, those could go down way too easy. And I'm not a Bush Light fan by any means.
Damn.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Hell yeah. Last hot or not, I want to do something that I don't really know. All right, let's do a hot topic. How about Elon Musk?
Definitely hot. Not physically looking wise, but what he's doing right now, I like for the most part. I like the space exploration stuff. I like what he did with Twitter and giving people a free and open platform that we know of so far. And my only disagreement I have with him is like the Tesla push and the whole electric car industry. I think is kind of a sham, but I'm not going to turn into Powerline Peter tonight,
So I knew your opinion about the electric cars, which is why I didn't ask the hot or not about that. We might actually end up getting into your background with that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So then 3 other warm-up questions here, not really hot or nots.
Okay.
How would you describe your job in one word?
Fun. Yeah.
Care to elaborate?
Well, I get to build my own schedule. It took a little while to develop a client base, but once you get moving with that and start building relationships with those people, it becomes a little bit more rewarding. Obviously you can probably infer that my job is in sales, but yeah, it's the last couple of years were difficult because of not really being able to get out and see people. Sorry, we refer to that as the Kung Flu on this podcast.
The Kung Flu or the Wuhan flu, just simply to avoid the banner or whatever algorithm bullshit that's going on. Yeah.
So yeah, that was different. And then when we got back to seeing people and getting out on the road and stuff, it was good. Definitely got out on the field more, pulling some conductor and working with some linemen. Yeah, it was good. I enjoy it. My bosses are awesome. You can't ask for much more than that, and recently became a partner. So
hell yeah,
it's fun.
Excellent. Did you have a favorite teacher? School, college, it could be grade school, ever.
I did. I would have to say probably in college, and I won't say his name, but he was my thermodynamics teacher, professor, I should say. And again, another tism I have is that I loved thermodynamics, and most people think I'm crazy for that. But yeah, my professor made it so much easier to understand, and we just clicked. And he's just like one of those straightforward, no bullshit kind of guys. But he knows when you're putting in the work. So when you get put into the random group projects and shit, and you quickly learn how much shit you're gonna have to shovel yourself, to get by in life. So I guess, from a college perspective, that's one good thing that you can take out of it.
And for the idiots out there like myself, how would you explain thermodynamics to like a 4-year-old?
Oh, to a 4-year-old. Man, it's like, do you think a 4-year-old can really understand energy? Probably not.
I don't know. Try.
Maybe some can. But yeah, I mean, it has to deal with energy, expansion, cooling, engine cycles, that kind of stuff. So
lovely.
As simple as I can describe it.
And then last sort of one question here before jumping back. What would you say, what chain, little mom and pop shop, it can be whatever, where would you say you can find the best pizza, period?
Best pizza. I would have to say, probably Tasty's Pizza up in Cleveland.
Tasty's Pizza.
It's where my parents actually, yeah. It's not even Tasty's. It's Tasty. It's just Tasty Pizza.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it's been there since, oh man, well before my parents. My parents are high school sweethearts, and they used to go on dates there. So
It sounds like a money laundering front.
a little bit. I mean, you walk in and you order your pizza and stuff, and then there's an entire like beer fridge. So you just go and grab a beer and sit down in the back. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's different.
That's excellent.
Definitely family owned. Kind of nobody's ever heard of that place. I mean,
Yeah. The small shops are always good. I'd have to say I hold to this day the best pizza I've ever had would have to be from Nikki's Pizza when visiting downtown Detroit.
Yeah.
In Greektown.
That's Detroit style.
Detroit style. Yep. And
it's tough to beat.
People you say Detroit style and people think of Jets.
Yeah.
Jets is like, so when you say Panda Express is Chinese food, people are like, no, that's like the fast food of Chinese food. Jets is the fast food of Detroit style pizza, I found, in that it's very greasy, it's very heavy. But proper Detroit style pizza, that crust is like airy, it's very light.
Crispy.
Crispy, yes. And they do a very good job. So I know that wasn't a question for me, but I had to shout out the place.
I know we've shared that when we visited Detroit. We've shared that a few times. Usually with a beer in hand.
No, I mean, you have to.
Okay. Let's see. Why don't you run through what you're smoking, what we're drinking? You need another one, but what did you just put down?
Yeah. So I'm smoking a Oliva Serie V Melania, one of my favorites. I believe you got me these as a gift, and I'm still hanging on to them. I smoke them sparingly usually, but they're so consistent. I can't say I've had a bad one. They all burn really well. The flavor is really good. And I think the Robusto is the perfect size.
Yeah.
First pour here is Pure Kentucky. It's from the Willett Distillery, 107 proof. Considering the other two bottles we have are barrel proof, I figured we'd open it up with something as what we would consider soft.
Yeah. After that trip to the Bourbon Trail, obviously the palates and the tolerance increased, I think, tremendously. To the point where I think I mentioned it when I was going over just drinks of choice and, interesting bourbons. That barrel proof's really the sort of the standard now, really what you reach for, unless it's a really unique sort of bottle, I think.
Yeah.
That's at least how I think of it. I think the only thing I return to that's not barrel proof, you gotta make your Buffalo Trace. Just as like a staple to have on the bar cart,
Probably that Calumet as well.
I was just about to say,
batch.
that Calumet small batch. That was excellent.
And it's good because it's a 14 and an 8-year blend. But
Yeah.
I do wish, even for it being, I think, what is it, like 86 proof or something?
It's lower.
It's lower. I don't understand why they cut it so much. Even something that's just like 47, 48 proof, or 48% is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I don't know why but I'm not a master distiller. No. I don't have the taste buds.
I mean, if they can water it down that much and still charge like 60 plus for it, then
why not?
Maybe we're the ones who are out of touch.
Yeah, right.
Did you pour yourself another one of that straight Kentucky?
Yeah, I didn't know how fast you were going.
Oh yeah, I'm almost through with it.
You want some?
Or I may keep rotating here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Still working through my straight Kentucky. Very good. I haven't actually focused enough on the tasting notes. I don't know if you have anything.
It's peppery, a little bit on the back end, a little bit of cinnamon, because you do get a little bit of heat on it.
Sure.
Kind of a staple in Willett's lineup, I think, is like that kind of red hot candy, a little bit of cinnamon.
Yeah.
But on the front end, this one in particular, I get like brown sugar and a little bit more of like not really maple. I would say like cross between brown sugar and like butterscotch almost.
That tracks. Yeah. Just took another sip there. That lines up. It's not as sweet as like that Willett pot still with the really cool like beaker looking bottle.
Genie bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely has a more like sugary sort of caramel thing going on. This definitely has more spice, and that may just be because of the proof, but still very good. I am smoking a Perdomo 20th anniversary Maduro, and like those Milanios that you're smoking, these are basically a staple now for me too. The Milanios, I think that's an intense smoke. I think it's well balanced though. It's one of the very rare sticks where you get a lot going on. It's not killing you with spice.
Yeah.
Decent nicotine hit though as well.
More than you'd expect.
Yeah. And the Maduros, even more so. Though the Melanio Maduros,
Yes.
those things are like dynamite sticks.
I want to say we tried that last summer.
Might have. My dad may have had a time loaded up in his humidor. But these Perdomos are great. Not a lot of spice, but I get a lot of like nuttiness.
Yeah.
It's like a creamy sort of nutty thing going on, which I think is very unique, kind of different, which is why I hold on to them. You pay the price for them though. They're the 20th anniversary sticks a little more expensive, but they're good.
More of like a medium to full body on it.
Yeah.
If you're saying creamy.
The Robustos, they're the only way to go. I think similar to the Milanios, I've had some sort of torpedo Milanios that they don't burn right, they don't taste right, but the Robustos,
it's the perfect stick.
Something about the size, I think in general, Robustos just taste better, they smell better. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just ignorant.
No, I don't think so. I kind of agree. And I used to think that like 6x54 or 6x60 was the way to go with the cigars. And
The Toro.
Yeah, I think 6x54 is a Toro, and 6x60. I don't remember what they call it. It's a little bit bigger, but just bigger ring gauge. I used to think that was the way to go, but I'm in general kind of a slower smoker, anyways, and I don't sit there and cheap on it. So when I have those cigars, it tends to take me like an hour and a half to get through them, and I don't always have an hour and a half to get through. Like these Milanios, I think they burn a little slower, but I can probably sit on this thing for about an hour, whereas most people probably smoke it in 45 minutes or so. But and it's not because I'm flapping my gums here, but
you mentioned you are a proud new homeowner and just spent an ungodly amount of hours doing some work in your basement.
I did.
Why don't you walk everyone through the pros and cons of new home ownership and what you just did?
It's kind of funny. I mean, your last podcast talked on mortgages a little bit, and I can't say I really paid that much attention to the intricacies of it, just because I don't have a background in finance. I'm good with numbers. I did engineering, but I don't have that finance kind of nuanced detail. And so for me, it was more of a price-driven thing. I wanted to get it down to what I could comfortably afford. Got a wedding coming up. I wanted to get out of renting, and where I'm located is just blowing up right now. There's just so much business coming here, and a lot of families moving here because of the jobs. It's just going to keep moving upwards. And so my realtor, we actually went to the same college at different times, but we were alumni of the same college, and he was awesome. I mean, he kind of talked me into. He's a.
But you can edit it out. Don't worry.
He's a native to where I live right now, and he actually was telling me that it's not a bad time to get in, no matter what the interest rate is, because there's a lot of uncertainty right now as to where the rate's going to go. In fact, I think the Fed just came out today and said they're not going to be
pausing.
They're pausing the rate. So, no, we were happy with what we got in. It wasn't publicly listed yet, so they were going to list the house publicly, and we got in prior to that because my realtor knew these people. So we actually got to go in and buy a house in the traditional sense.
Nice.
Their asking price was X and X. They bought this house and they did what they could. They were first-time home flippers, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh boy.
Fun stuff. They were first-time home flippers, and they were asking for X and X. We got to go in, and we toured the house. We went through and got an appraisal. We got an inspection. We didn't have to waive anything, no gap coverage, none of that stuff, which was really nice, especially for where we're at, because it's just been bidding wars and craziness, and home prices are driven up on average 10 to 15% in those bidding wars, and then having to cover that gap. I just didn't have that cash in hand. I couldn't just sling, tens of thousands of dollars on the table like that. And could I have afforded a little bit more house? Yeah, but I have some other stuff going on. I'm buying into the company, and I need to have more liquidity.
So once we got in, it felt good. It didn't really feel real. I've moved so much. I've moved like 7 times or 8 times or something like that in the last 5 years. And now, I mean, it feels good to have like a home base now and actually be somewhere consistent where I have a 5-year plan. And I did do a 5-1 arm loan, just because.
That's interesting.
So I took a risk, did a 5-1 arm, and my home's technically deeded as a condo. So, but we are, we are responsible for the roof. We're responsible for everything within our fence in the backyard, and technically our fence is ours. We just kind of have to ask the HOA for permission to change it or to upgrade it. Kind of weird. It's a less expensive HOA.
I was about to ask, what do the dues look like, if you don't mind?
$125 a month.
Oh, that's not bad.
So, and most of them are north of $400.
Yeah.
And it's not a shared wall condo, so it acts as a single family home. And so that's why we kind of liked it. It's about with the basement, so we don't have an exit in the basement, so you can't count in the square footage. That probably, we went from like an 1,100 or 1,200 square foot apartment to about a 1,600 square foot house. Doesn't seem like a big upgrade, but when you have a backyard and a deck and stuff, it definitely feels better. And you have a garage attached to that doesn't necessarily, I don't know if that does count towards the square footage. I think
for as long as I've been in the field, I don't know.
I don't think it does, because that would be an extra 400. It's a 20 by 20 garage.
Shit.
So there's no way that that's added. That's not livable space. It's just a garage. But anyways, so we got in, and there was a lot of stuff when we were touring that we kind of overlooked because everything was staged, and everything was set up. We were a little bit emotional. I was trying to remove a lot of the emotion.
Yeah.
My significant other was a little bit more
fired up.
Yeah, she was excited and stuff. She had a little bit of hesitancy because she's kind of caught up on like the forever home kind of thing.
Sure.
That's like step 2. This is step 1. Getting a mortgage is step 1.
Yeah.
And then sweat equity is number 2, at least for this kind of place, because it was built in the mid 80s. So it's coming up on 40 years old. And so we actually just had the gutters redone today. That's not something that you kind of look at and go, oh, that looks sexy. But very functional. I've got 2 big trees that are on hovering over my upper gutters. We got leaf guards installed, so I won't have to climb up there and clean that out. They were so backed up, and I still have issues with my my downspout drainage. Those are both clogged up completely. So I have to have like a plumber come out and fish that and then repair it because it's cracked. So you just keep digging up more and more stuff that was either neglected or it was just, especially in this case, I said first-time home flippers. They cheat and they cut corners where they can. So you really have to be careful about that. And then when you start diving into stuff, it was probably 3 weeks into getting moved in. We still had boxes laying around and stuff. And this was going to be I know this is a longer term project, and we're trying to not rush into getting everything staged up and waste our money and everything. And so I started just digging the basement up. I mean, I knew I wanted to change the light fixture, add some outlets, had old acoustic ceilings because, again, it was built in the mid 80s. Pause the smells here.
No, you're good. You've been doing a lot of talking, and not really. Sorry, you're hearing another bottle opening here. Really painting a real rosy picture of the American dream here.
Well, there's like I said, sweat equity is like it's kind of like a I don't know. There's times where you're gonna be MF and things, and you're bleeding. You literally are bleeding just because like you give yourself an Alabama knuckle buster or whatever. And so it's like when I was learning how to mud a ceiling, you can watch as many videos as you want, but until you do it, it's like, damn, dude. And it gives you another appreciation for the trades superbly. I mean, tying that into one of your episodes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big proponent of the trades. I kind of wish I had gone into it myself. I was a good student and I did what I was supposed to do, but I never loved school.
No.
That stuff kind of came relatively easily to me until I did engineering school and that stuff. I just kind of had to learn how to study. Tests were different. But the subject matter still made sense to me. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but tying it back into doing the basement and stuff. Yeah, so I ended up starting scraping off the popcorn, mudding the ceiling. I scraped it down and I realized, so when I had added the electrical outlets, I found out that the ceiling down there is 1/2 inch drywall and it really should be 5/8 inch, but I didn't. I mean, I'm not that good with drywall, so I didn't tear it down. I just decided to put 2 skim coats over it.
Sure.
So I skim coated it, had to put a couple coats of paint on. We ripped up all the carpeting. We had old industrial carpet down there, and these people,
I remember that carpet. Yeah.
that carpet was just, I mean, it's, tightly wound, and
It
just old.
looks like an old person carpet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's probably who was living in here when it was sold to the previous owner.
That's kind of the vibe I got. One of the bathrooms has one of those like handles. It looks like
an ADA handle.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I can get that out of the wall. I was looking at that.
Oh, it's in there.
Oh, it's in there. And yeah, so like even in the basement too, like the handrail that they did was a 2x4.
Oh.
But they only ran it for like 8 feet. And then
those stairs are pretty treacherous too, I feel like, for an old person.
Those stairs are narrow. They were just plank steps.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this until I ripped up the carpeting. And so there was so much expansion foam in there, and they just did such a shitty job on the stairs. I mean, not a single stair was the same dimension. I didn't actually have treads. I didn't actually have risers. They were plank steps.
Unreal.
So I didn't know what to do. I was like, shit, what do you do about plank steps? And thankfully there's actually what they call retro fit. Like it's a retro riser and a retro tread. So I ended up buying it. Cost me about $750. I had to cut everything down. Since everything was all whack in dimensions, I had to take multiple dimensions, trace it out. I fucked up the first stair, took my dimensions from the wrong area. So I got to patch that up, but it ended up working out. But I had to just like buzzsaw on the one side, just keep scoring it down until they would test fit. And then you have to construction adhesive, and we did all of the baseboard trim. We did all the quarter round. We laid all new laminate flooring. Thankfully we had we could keep the dartboard in the bar. So that was positive. At least we had some stuff to work with. And I know a couple guys. I know one guy that's in the gas industry but has done a ton of work on his house. He's got the right tools. And that's what everybody says too. Is like once you get into a house, it's like you need to have the right tools, or you need to know somebody that has the right tools and knows what they're doing. And that's kind of how you learn. You just learn through practice. And once you do start doing that stuff, then you start looking around your house and you're like, oh, they did this really poorly, or they did this really well. So
yeah, so I guess a couple of things to consider in the rent versus buy debate.
If you're not ready for the responsibility, don't do it.
Yeah, I mean the handful of other costs that you kind of take for granted too, especially moving into a house that's not like a couple of years old, maybe like your apartment complex.
Yeah. And that was an adjustment too. It was just, I mean, going from
not having... sling that?
What's that?
The lighter, can you sling that?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the thing, going from an apartment to a house. It's a lot different in terms of your responsibilities and when things break. However, it was an adjustment for me where I had a hard time parting with a lot of money on the house. At first, I was like, man, I'm just draining my bank account right now. But it's all money you're going to be putting back into your pocket later on. Yeah. As long as you're doing the right things and not screwing anything up.
And nothing explodes, yeah.
Exactly. Anything that you can cosmetically add to the house that makes it look better, you're probably going to add value to it down the road. And then, like I said, I'm in a hot market. And that hot market is forecasted for the next decade. One of the main utilities out here said that the energy demand is going to tenfold in the next 5 to 10 years here. And it's just crazy. The growth is insane. The traffic's insane.
Yeah.
Not something I'm used to. So
that's fair. I know my state doesn't have the best roads, and that's well documented among the folks in my circle. And because of that, and the construction traffic is always just a nightmare. No matter where I've been working, It's always just been extremely frustrating to deal with. Even when I was renting and living a mile away from the office, which is shocking. I do want to bring up our little range day we had not too long ago, though, because everything has to come back to guns at some point or another. And you have a very interesting pistol, one I've never seen before. And I forgot what the model is. I don't know if you have it off the top of your head.
It's a Steyr M9A2.
Steyr M9A2. That is the same company that makes the AUG, which I found I didn't even know they made pistols, to be completely honest with you.
Correct, and they make good pistols.
I was stunned at how great it was.
Different sight.
Very interesting sight. I'll have to find a picture and like throw it up during the episode just to show the sight picture, because it's very unique.
It's a love or hate thing.
Yeah.
Well, at least from everything I was reading, and until I didn't love it at first, but I actually flipped on the other end of the spectrum. I probably will add a red dot at some point, just for practicality and for training with it, really, to kind of get an idea. But that sight, I know your dad loved that sight too, and it just fires really smoothly. It feels light in your hand. The action is
very light, and that trigger is very impressive. I mean, I'm coming from a Glock trigger, which are known to not be the most precise or light triggers in the world. Yeah, it's a pretty squishy, heavy trigger. But the pull on yours was very impressive, but how light yours was for being a full-size pistol was impressive. And I think that's because of how slim that slide is. You know, that frame, the polymer frame takes up, you know, most of the gun, like most pistols now, but that slide is probably, I think, half a bit extreme of what a Glock slide is. But I mean, it's at least a third smaller than a Glock slide. It's a very, very small slide.
Yeah, and that would, like, upon seeing it the first time, you'd be like,
it looks funky. It looks very funky.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it to be as smooth as it is, I guess.
Yeah.
And in comparison to my high point,
I wrote this down too. I was like, he owns a yeet cannon. We absolutely have to talk about that.
I gotta do something with that thing, because it's next time I come and visit you guys, I'll bring that up. It's just a fun thing to shoot.
It's hilarious.
It's stupid. I think you shot it at the range when
I did, and for the life of me, it felt like it didn't even figure gun. It just felt so foreign in my hands. It was so strange.
It's better as a battery tool than it is.
I was about to say you can throw, you know, at the exact opposite end of the spectrum as far as slide thickness goes. That thing's like a brick on a polymer frame. That thing is crazy.
Yes. Yeah. So
and actually that thing makes the Glock trigger look like a work of art.
I mean, this thing looks like a Lego.
It really does like a Lego gun. It's exactly what it looks like. That's in 38 too, right?
Yeah, 380.
380, yeah.
Yeah, it's like something you'd see out of Halo. I mean, really. I bought that for $100, and he gave me a bunch of ammo, and it was my first gun purchase. So I was like, you know what? Whatever, I'll just,
for $100. Yeah, and you know what? I think something's better than nothing, but you know, you ended up upgrading and you got a really decent piece now, which is great. And I don't know how much you've been shooting outside the times we've gone, but I mean, shooting with a pistol's tough.
Oh, it's
I think we were just running drills from like 25 yards out.
Yeah.
Maybe it might have been tighter. Might have been like 15.
15 yards. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, well, we did a couple of different things, but yeah, it's not necessarily something that comes supernaturally to a lot of people. I would say, like, you can sense a natural, maybe shooting skeet for shooting clays.
I have it in here as well. You were lighting it up with when we pulled out the clay launcher.
Oh, that's a little too kind. It's funny, actually, getting into this house, they left me a clay launcher, and it's brand new. And the one we were using was from like 1960.
And it showed, I mean, the number of times we couldn't get it to work. Yeah.
So I'll bring that out next time too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easier to pick out a natural from shooting a shotgun at clays, or like, I mean, I guess an AR. It depends on the position you're in with an AR. If you're just standing up,
if you're just standing still and not moving around,
if you get it on a pod, and
you
stuff,
gotta, you know, a sight that's even decently zeroed in. It's point and click. Especially because we were shooting, you know, maybe 50, 60, even tighter, you know, yards out. Yeah. We were shooting some pretty small targets though. and transitioning between. But still, I think you probably were ripping the Daniel Defense that my dad had, and I know that thing's pretty tight. That's a very much that's a Gucci gun that has been ran
guns, yeah.
a lot, and that has been dialed in very well.
Yeah, and that was it was a little bit more compact than your build out.
Oh yeah, that's a tight build.
It's pretty light.
Mhm.
It feels balanced. It feels really nice to shoot. Trigger action's nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a $2,000 rifle. It
it
should
better
be
be.
good. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good time. We were out there and we got to pretty much fire pretty freely. It's nice shooting in the country, obviously.
Yes.
Totally beats going to any kind of range you could possibly go to. You and I have been on both ends of the spectrum, going to the cop range and then going to the country. And I'll take the country any day of the week.
And a little back on that cop range. I don't even remember the name of the place now. But I went to visit you. Brought up I think I brought up one of my AR pistols at the time. My Glock, and then I think the 7.62 AR pistol as well. Yeah, I brought my AR9, which is a pistol,
Yeah.
the 7.62 AR pistol, and the Glock. And shot the Glock, you shot the yeet cannon for a bit, and then I pulled out the AR9, started shooting. And actually, the first range officer that was in there was pretty cool, because we had an issue when we first walked in, because they asked to see the long gun ammo, and I showed them it. I showed them the 7.62. And they were like, "Oh, this is FMJ. You can't shoot it. It's going to tear up our backstop."
Yeah.
I was like, "Whatever, fine. Here's all the ammo." They tried selling me their soft point 7.62 for like, it was an absurd price.
You argued with them too about the.
Well, yeah, I was gonna, and so I wasn't gonna buy their, overpriced soft point 7.62. I was never gonna shoot, outside of this range. So I said, I'm just not gonna shoot this gun. Hold the ammo. Don't care. Got into the range. That first range officer was pretty cool. I was talking to him, showing him what I brought. And I was like, he's like, are you going to shoot that? That's a pretty interesting build. This is the side charging upper from Bear Creek. It's a pretty cool looking pistol, I will say. And I was like, no, they wouldn't let me shoot it because it's FMJ 7.62. But I was like, if I brought in my 5.56 FMJ, like it'd be fine. Apparently, that's a faster, higher penetrating round. You'd think that would tear up the backstop a little more. And maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but even he was like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I'll have a talk with somebody. He was a cool guy. Next guy who came in thought he was like fucking Chris Kyle, though. He came in, he had on the vest, the backwards hat, the Peltors, the sunglasses, like the Oakley sunglasses inside, and he thought he was all that. And he saw me shooting that AR9. And I had on, at the time, I had on the, I forgot the brand, but the stabilizing paddle or brace was called the Shockwave. And if you're not familiar with it, it's very easy to be confused, as a stock. If it's being shouldered, which is totally fine, and by the way, the ATF issued a letter, about shouldering and it kind of being a gray area, but it ended up being okay at the time. And even the ATF responded to this company that created the Shockwave saying it counts as a brace, it's a brace, specifically regarding this product. But this asshat wasn't having any of it and came up to me and was like, "Oh, how long did it take for you to get your, your SBR stamp or whatever?" I was like, "What?"
Well, in fact, he came up to me first when I was shooting it, and he goes, he asked me the same question. I was like, and I'm still, I would consider relatively green to guns.
Sure.
And at that point, very green, because I think that was almost 2 years ago now. Maybe it was last year. I can't remember.
I think it was 2.
I think it was 2 years ago. And yeah, so he came up to me and I was like, "You were asking the wrong person." They totally outed you under the bus. So
No.
like, go talk to the tall guy.
Absolutely.
Because you could explain it way better than I could.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
And so I was like, no, didn't get one. Like, it's a pistol. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is this guy fucking serious? How is he a range officer and not know what a fucking pistol is? And so he's like, no, because you have that stock on it, it's a short barrel rifle. I was like, well, funny you should say that. It's not a stock. It's, it's a brace. It's called the Shockwave, the ATF. I ran through the whole thing. He wasn't having it. And so he left to get a manager, basically saying either put it away or like get out of here, something like that. And so I threw it in the bag. I wasn't going to deal with it. I was like, fuck this. I'll shoot the Glock a couple times and we'll get out of here. So I went back. I think I was shooting the yeet cannon for fun at that point.
Yeah.
And I turn around and I see a different guy going through my shit, like my bag, looking for it. And I turn, I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm looking for like the SBR. And I'm like, okay, give me that. So we just ended up leaving.
Yeah.
And I think we duked it out the counter a little bit with the dude as he's handing back my 7.62, and we're getting out of there. And I was so worked up. I was like, I was looking it up in the car again on the way home. I was like making sure I didn't have like anything wrong. I was like, no, I'm absolutely right. This guy's didn't know his thing. And I guess as we were leaving, one of the owners, the older guy, came up and was like, hey, sorry about that. We're just playing it safe. I think someone was nailed for having an SBR in there. Yeah.
Before,
And I think they got fined, which is kind of stupid, honestly.
It is.
Why the gun shop should be fined for someone getting.
Yeah, I agree. I
mean,
mean,
nail that guy, I guess. I mean, I think the whole SBR thing's just retarded anyways.
Yeah.
But like, if someone's going to get punished by the government, I think it's the individual act. I don't think the gun shop really has a responsibility for that. I think.
No, I mean, and what are you going to do? Inspect everybody's gun?
And if you're going to do that, why stop there? Why not just ask, like, let me run a background check on everybody to make sure no one's a felon is actually allowed to have a gun at that point. Like, I don't know. It seems kind of silly.
It's a slippery slope.
But that's why I hate shooting indoors. And like the whole no rapid fire too kind of pisses me off. Like I can't shoot from like a holster, like a draw, really, if I really want to work on some fundamentals of the pistol indoors. Like just a pain.
We walked in there, and before we even got into the range, and you were showing your 7.62, right? You had your mags loaded.
Oh yeah.
In your bag, separate from the
separate
gun.
bag. Yeah. Yeah.
And they were trying to tell you you'd get dinged for that. If it was riding in the trunk of your car, you would get dinged for that because the ammo was not specifically in a different container.
So it was though.
But it was.
It was though, and I transferred it to the rifle, and they were just being big puff chest. And I think you did mention it was a cop shop too. Yeah. So I think they were just trying. It was like, okay, thanks.
30-foot rods up their ass.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was stiff, but we left and we'll never go back.
Yeah. No, we'll not be going back. And if I can avoid shooting inside, I will. There are times where I can't make it out to that, BFE sort of spot because it is kind of far from me. To where I'll go like pay $30, which is kind of ridiculous per hour to go shoot my own gun and my own ammo.
Yeah.
Just to stay fresh with the pistol skills, really. I think that's what I kind of I carry that every day. So
yeah, we'll have to go visit one of my buddies south of here, and he's got a really good outdoor range.
Hell yeah.
Those guys are really cool. A couple former military guys, I think, run it, but never.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. This was a long time ago that I shot with him, but we shot a Mosin Nagant, which was a ton of fun. That thing bruised the hell out of my shoulder because it's got like that steel plate at the end of the stock.
Hell yeah.
And something about it though, so satisfying. I mean, no scope on it.
No scope.
No scope, Mosin Nagant. I think we ended up throwing like a 4X or 6X on it.
Hell yeah.
Nothing too crazy, but yeah, it was me, my buddy, and actually his dad came out too. But that's a nice outdoor range. You can get up to 150 yards out there, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it lets you open it up a little bit.
Sure.
No rapid fire, but
yeah,
the guys there are still, and in an open range too. I don't know. It's a little bit different because you're not at booths shooting. You are, but you also are changing your targets out. You have to walk out to go change your targets. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. I understand those.
We have something like that too. Do they have like mag capacities? Like you weren't allowed to load a mag past like 5 rounds?
No.
We have those.
Okay.
In my state. Yeah. That's why I don't like the outdoor ranges either. I like them better.
Yeah.
But same rules, but with mag capacities.
Right. The goal is to buy property where you can just shoot.
Yeah. And even in my state, you can't even shoot on your property unless, and it's very subjective, like it's safe enough to do so, I think, or like there's enough provisions in place to make sure nobody gets hit.
Gotcha.
I think that's sort of just kind of weird, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, if you're in a subdivision, you can't just be plinking targets with your neighbor, your neighbor's kids on the play structure.
At the same time, I know some linemen that they'll just shoot a deer. Through their kitchen.
That's window. Where that guy's house we shot at. He keeps a rifle right by his bedroom window because there's turkeys and deer who just walk in his backyard and he smokes them right there. He cleans them and all that. And it's the life they live.
We had, it was my significant other's birthday last weekend, and belated birthday. We celebrated with a couple of friends, and we had some friends come down from where we used to live, and he brought me down duck breast and ground venison and some venison summer sausage. I'll tell you what, that summer sausage did not last long. It was unbelievably good. And there's just something about like the fresh kill. I don't mind a little bit of gamey taste, but
I don't either.
Oh man, it's my dad bought like a third of a steer a couple years ago with one of his buddies, actually Sam, who I was telling you about uh just the other day, or yeah, yesterday I think. And they both got in on like a third of a steer, and that the burgers, the steak, I mean, it was some of the best tasting I have ever had.
That's
It was-
awesome.
and you know exactly what steer. Well, I don't know if it's 100%, but you can be 90% sure you're
Yeah.
getting the tag steer that you want to pick out, and you get to go see the property, how they kill them. So you know, it's like, I mean, I'm not really too invested in the ethics of it. I know.
Yeah.
Who was it? They got dinged on the chicken farms and stuff. Was it Tyson?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Project Veritas who got him.
Oh yeah.
Love what they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a great look.
No, if you can't stand up.
I know. I think I read today. I think USDA is now increasing like the standards for labeling like that.
I mean, you go to the store and you see the chicken breasts are enormous. I
Yeah.
mean, they're huge, and it's like not filled with whatever it is, RB.
What is chickens lifting?
Yeah, I was like, geez. Yeah, is this chicken?
Right? Yeah. I did. As you mentioned deer, I remember getting this thing today. Chronic wasting disease among cervids, so deer, elk, moose, etc., has been reported in 30 U.S. states after being discovered in Oklahoma earlier this month. The increased detections are leading to additional restrictions on hunting in the states. I don't know what that disease is,
Interesting.
but I guess
I've
you're
not
not
heard.
allowed to, I guess, hunt like certain deer, in certain states now. Or if you do, I think certain states even have like requirements on like storage and like bringing like parts of like the animal to certain centers for testing, like the skull, like the brain, I think.
Well, I think there might be another name for that. I've heard.
CWD. It's like the abbreviation, I know.
Huh.
And that's actually, I put it in another episode I'm working on, The Source. There's this service I'm subscribed to called the Gray Man Briefing. It's a Telegram sort of subscription.
Yeah.
I think it's like $5 a month. And it's worldwide news as it's happening live, and they're pretty good at listing their sources and the credibility of the sources. That's why I get a lot of my news, since I really hate the news
Oh yeah.
more than anything. I hate social media really more than anything. It's not a great place to get the news either. So that's kind of what I defaulted to. Not affiliated by any means, but it's good work. They put out good stuff. So
Did you have
wanted
to
to
be
shout
invited
that
to
out.
it, or was it
No,
like
I found
you
them on
just know?
Instagram, Gray Man Briefing. And their posts are like a couple of days behind the actual like feed you see.
Okay.
There's a free version too, and you're not going to get everything, and some of it is delayed. But $5 a month, because I don't live with a TV and I don't really
Yeah.
subscribe to any sort of like news channels or anything. I figured, why not just get it
Yeah.
straight to my phone as things are happening, just so I'm informed. So
Shit, I mean, between probably something like that and like Crystal and Sauger and
funny story.
Really?
I was a huge fan of Breaking Points, and I do have to revisit it because it's not fair for me to hear one thing and kind of write them off. But they had on Kennedy for an interview.
Oh really?
Yeah, which is very cool, I think, because due to his speech impediment or it's actually a adverse vaccine reaction, which fucked up his vocal cord, which is why he sounds like that.
Of course.
It's cool to see that he got the amount of time that he did on their platform, given the audience that they have. But they said, the whole purpose for them, decentralizing, standing up a podcast, moving away from mainstream news media, was to get away from the sort of interview style that you see on like mainstream media, and not giving people the amount of time to answer like a real question properly.
Yeah.
And so there was a point in the interview where Crystal was trying to go down this path of, questioning his, anti-vaccine stance.
So
No, Crystal.
Crystal-
Kennedy. Crystal was interviewing
oh,
Kennedy and was like,
gotcha.
I have to talk about this, your anti-vaccine stance. I don't agree with it. And I was going down this path, and every time she like asked a question, whoa, really get some thunder here, I think. We have to move inside. Every time she'd ask a question, he would start to like answer, provide sources, and she'd almost like cut him off. Maybe we don't have enough time for that. We got to like move on or whatever. I'm like, we don't have enough time for that. It's a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a timer going off right now. You moved away to be able to have enough time to do this sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
And there's a 10-minute segment of this, and he couldn't get a word out. She kept saying, well, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're anti-vaccine. He's trying to say, no, I'm not anti-vaccine. I think that shouldn't be the first step.
Yeah.
Right. When looking at how to like attack, a disease or a virus or whatever. But that's what kind of turned me off from them. And do we need to move inside?
Let's check the radar.
Yeah, let's take a peek at the radar here, because that lightning strike was pretty close, and we're gonna start hearing some thunder here soon, I think. Yeah, it looks like we're about to get hit.
Are we?
Yeah. Shit. Brief, but it looks like we're about to get some orange and red.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah, quick shuffle. We'll cut it here.
All right, we moved back in after the storm. Yeah, lightning, thunder. You're going to hear a little bit of an echo because of the basement we're in, but we're back. The man cave that's required 65 hours of sweat equity. Sweat equity and the American dream, as you explained earlier. Yeah, the American dream. It's not all that it's cracked up to be. We're joined by the significant other of Justan. Want to say hello, significant other?
Hi to all those that are listening right now.
All tens of the people listening. Yep, that's right. Let's see. So we kind of went down the gun rabbit hole. I did put down something though. You have something interesting here that you do with the fellas. Want to explain the bourbon and Smash Bros night? Yeah, that's since I moved down here. I moved away from home, and I had some friends that lived in the area, but I guess I didn't anticipate kind of building a community, and we've got a group of guys that get together it's been less frequent. Last year we got together probably every quarter, maybe 6 weeks or so, maybe 8 weeks, I guess, depending on everybody's schedule. But we would get together, and everybody brings a different bottle of bourbon. One guy has a cocktail, one guy makes dinner, and then we just play Smash Bros for sometimes 3 or 4 hours. And it's usually like a weeknight, like a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, so it kind of breaks the week up a little bit, because you can get caught in the mundane shit, and so it's good. It's good to get around those guys, and everybody makes something different. I like to make the ethnic dishes. My family's Hungarian and German and Irish, so we make a good mix of stuff, and it's just good. We get to hang out, we get to be bros. Sometimes we don't talk much, and we kind of just hang out and smash. Whoa! What do you mean by that? Yeah, Smash Bros. Sometimes we'll just hang out and play, and then it's a good time. We need to get together more, really. It's been a while since I've been able to get out there, but life's been busy, so. Yeah, feel that. Smash main? I think I know, but are you still on the it's between Bowser and Rob. Oh, Rob. Yeah, Rob spoons in the microwave. Totally stupid character, but he's just brain function. He's just so fun to play as. He is one of the best characters, and I am nowhere near good enough to classify myself as a good Rob, but it's just fun beating down on kids, especially when you're playing online and you get the kids that are just DLC mains like today. I actually was screwing around with it because I moved the Switch down to the basement, and I was playing as Rob, and I got paired up with Sephiroth, which is just cancer. And Sephiroth, he took me down a stock or two, and I was able to come back, and it's just fun teabag on that, Nothing like dumpstering on like little Timmys after they get home from school. Yeah. It's tough being a 9-to-5 gamer though. Too hard. Having responsibilities and shit, you can't game, all day like you could during the pandemic. I still get away with that sometimes. I can't, unfortunately. Not since getting the house, really, but when I was in the apartment, man, slow day. It's just like, oh no, same. When I was in the old apartment too, during the pandemic, it was no meetings. We're playing Apex all day. Yeah, we did that quite a bit. Yeah, real degenerate shit. I'm still in the Donkey Kong gang. Can never give it up, despite being the most disadvantaged. You always kick my ass too. I love the monkey. Love the monkey. Big monkey swing. You guys also get into some stoicism though during those nights too. Is that right? There's like a one-time deal. That is not always with the other guys.
Okay.
It's typically with two of the other guys that I primarily hang out with. We hang out more frequently than just getting the entire band together, because those guys are a little bit more in tune with that kind of stuff. They like to read, they like to touch base. With like Ryan Holiday's holiday stuff. The Daily Stoic is the book.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
I haven't read that. I think the book I am rereading now, I know it's called The Practicing Stoic. I think the author's name is, it sounds like the dude from Shrek. Lord Farnsworth, I think, is the author's name.
Lord Farquaad.
Yeah, literally. That's the first thing I thought of. But it's a great book. I think it just goes through each chapter is like a different sort of like topic that each Stoic had, opinions to share on.
Okay.
And it's just a bunch of passages.
Okay.
And there's different sections each chapter as well that'll be like this aspect of death. Here's what they thought of it. Here's Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, going on and on. It's just a quick read because it's broken up like that, but it's a good book.
That's interesting because like Ryan Holiday's version, the Daily Stoic, is just a 1 page per day. I think I don't have the book. I need to get it, but it's just like it has a passage. It kind of talks about a certain principle, and it's meant to just be like a daily log. So it'll have a date in there, June 12th, June 13th, whatever, and you just go down the line and keep following it. So really, it only takes. I mean, if you're a slow reader, 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Before bed, you can either recap on the day, or you can wake up and start with it, and it kind of gives you like, in a sense, guidance for the day. And really at the end of the day, it's like just like religion is kind of supposed to be spreading a good message.
Yeah.
Be ethical, be a good person, spread goodness in the world. It's the same. It's the same exact kind of concept.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think I kind of naturally gravitated towards a lot of like the Stoic principles more so I did than some of like the traditional, I think, Catholic or Christian tenets I think were taught to me. And I won't go down that powder keg topic or rabbit hole. So when I picked up the book and started reading what these dudes were saying, in fact, however the fuck long ago it was, I was like, damn, they kind of got it figured out.
Yeah. I mean, it stood the test of time. We're still talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
a couple thousand years later.
And I wish I brought the book because I recently dog-eared 2 pages as I was rereading it. Both having to do with like time, the passage of time, and like the perception of time, and specifically focusing on the present. I think both by Seneca. I think Seneca is probably my favorite of the Stoics. I think he's got some pretty sweet quotes and a pretty sweet outlook on like living your life and on death, but also when he was relating to valuing your time, I can't remember that quote. I'm not going to try to butcher it, but the other one was like, think of life almost as like a banquet. And this isn't the exact quote, but essentially as things like are passed around, you take things off the plate. It's not proper or polite to like reach across like the table and take things from, someone else when it's their turn to grab things. So, think of that in like the aspect of, I think, like, don't feel like you have to rush into like hitting certain milestones in life necessarily. Focus on the present, enjoy the present, and as things come to you, obviously take advantage of that moment and grab things off the plate, but don't feel like you need to reach across the table and just do that for the sake of doing it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Kind of like letting the journey happen,
exactly,
letting it unfold, kind of taking care of the small things, one thing at a time, and the big things will come together.
Exactly.
I mean, I can tie it into my basement, really. It felt like a disaster, and it was just like one little thing done at a time, and I felt so overwhelmed. When I started getting into it, I didn't think it was going to be as much work as what it ended up being. I maybe anticipated, it'll take a couple days, and I'll have this thing up to speed, but no, it took me about a month, and that was still having a generous amount of time.
Sure.
I probably blew 2 entire weekends working nonstop Friday to Sunday, trying to get this place in shape. So things take time. You just got to be patient and doing the small things. Like, and my high school baseball coach actually said this too. Something that's always stuck with me is it's 11 o'clock at night. You're driving home from your friend's house and you come to a 4-way stop. Are you going to make a complete stop when nobody's on the road, nobody's looking, and there's no stoplights? Are you going to do the right thing when nobody's looking?
And that's how you should carry yourself in all facets of life, whether it's work, whether it's your relationship. When nobody's watching, are you doing the right things? And are you going to continue to do the right things? Or are you going to roll right through that stop sign and keep going?
Well, I'm glad you didn't ask me that question, because when it comes to necessary stop signs or red lights, the old adage, good men break bad laws, kind of just rings through my head, and I blow right through that fucker. There's one on the way to work every day. It's like, there's an intersection of, and the only thing that it regulates is traffic on this service road. And there's an intersection, and the service road connects like the freeway to basically these manufacturing plants. And this intersection on both sides, there are 2 hotels. And so the only thing that this traffic light regulates is the flow of traffic from the service road and the hotel traffic, like between each other. And there's no reason why the traffic coming on, like on the service road, that they shouldn't just have a blinking yellow. And the hotel should have a blinking red. But no, it's a fully functioning traffic light. And every time that turns red and there's nobody at that hotel, I'm like, fuck that. We're going straight through. I'm getting to work on time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say
that isn't to like talk shit on your coach, but
no, I don't. I mean, I don't hold myself to that all the time either. It's like, it's just a good principle, and he's trying to tie it into something very real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I get exactly what he's saying. Yeah.
So, and I'm sure he didn't do this thing either. He was a lot of talk, and
I think it was my dad who coined the term. It was a little orange to me when that light was turning red. Or stoptional. Cool. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Stoptional or out with a little orange. Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyways, you need a refill. You're good. What was that one we drank after? Was it Pure Kentucky?
Yeah, it was after Pure Kentucky. We had Ragged Branch. They're a Virginia distillery, and kind of neat because they're one of the few distilleries that doesn't use MGP.
What is that?
I don't know what it stands for, but what it means is, and we can look this up later, but I've always heard the term MGP, and from what I understand, it's just like a standardized mash bill. So like you get a mash bill that's already predetermined. It's like a standard, let's just say 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% malted barley. It's like a standard MGP mash bill that a lot of these distilleries use.
Interesting. And this is just like the recommended Google result. But sourced bourbon, or as it is commonly called, MGP bourbon, is a product bottled by a company that did not distill the liquor.
Yeah,
in a world of small batch whiskeys and craft production, the increased popularity of Midwest grain production, or MGP bourbon, may shock some bourbon enthusiasts.
Right. So these guys, they grow everything on site.
Okay.
So they're not using an MGP mix. They grow all their corn, rye, and barley on site.
Gotcha.
And they also have a cattle farm. And if you ever get the chance to go, it's beautiful. It's just outside of Charlottesville, Virginia, situated on kind of some might call it a mountain, depending on where you're from. Some might call it a hill.
I mean, the Midwesterners is going to be a mountain.
Yeah.
Like the Grand Canyon to them.
So it sits out there. And it's a beautiful view of the countryside. It's very quiet. They got a couple dogs there. Very friendly. They walk you through the tasting. And I struck out. I didn't have a cooler or Yeti with me when I was there. Otherwise, I would have bought some of their cattle or some of their ground beef that they had from their
Ex-cattle.
So yeah, this is I had their standard stuff. I had their I want to say it was their rye, their bourbon, and I couldn't remember if it was like a single barrel or something else in the tasting. And actually, this bottle that I purchased was just a single barrel proof version of their standard product. And I was like, you know what? I liked it enough. I'll give it a shot, even though I'm not going to be tasting it. And it's fantastic. It's really, really good. It's minimum aged 5 years, I think, somewhere around that ballpark. So yeah, because I think their bottled in bond is like their flagship product, or quote unquote flagship product. So yeah, if you ever get the chance, head on down to Charlottesville. They have beautiful wineries.
Do gotta make my way down.
And Jefferson, actually, who was somewhat of a stoic, he was actually a very big red wine proponent, and he wanted to develop that region into a red wine region. That's part of the reason I took my significant other down there. because we both like red wine a good bit. We like dry red wines, and we wanted to get away. Life's been really crazy. We got into the house. She's in school and working part time, and she's grinding it out, and she deserved a little bit of a break to get away. And we needed to get the dogs situated, but once we got everything planned out, we were able to drive. And
Oh yeah, how long was that drive? Actually, don't answer that. Don't dox yourself. I don't know. Some asshole out there who's not gonna like something and probably try to do the math.
Unless you're a hacker, good luck, because I'm not on social media. But it's about 6.5. And it was beautiful. I mean, we kind of just took it slow, and we talked to each other, and it was nice to reconnect a little bit, get away, just drop everything. We tried to stay on our phones as little as possible.
Yeah.
We did 3 wineries in a day. Tested the driving ability a little bit. It was fun.
I mean, logic would have the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was kind of like the Bourbon Trail trip, though. I think we were 3 tastings in, going, "Oh shit, we drove."
Yeah, it's like let's go back.
Maybe we just do the tours for the last few here. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a different trip, and it's a cool area. A lot of history down there. Charlottesville has this like open mall area that you can kind of walk through, and they have restaurants and bars. That's that bourbon bar I sent you.
Yeah.
That one night they had a really good selection, really fat pours for it. I have a hard time ordering bourbon out just because I buy so many bottles to begin with.
You go to a bar and you see how expensive it is for like a glass of something. When you look at it, you probably have the bottle of that thing at home anyways. It's like could be upwards of $10+ a pour.
Yeah.
When the bottle's like a fifth of that.
Exactly. Like a bottle of Buffalo Trace, depending on where you're located, shouldn't be any more than $26 to $35,
Yeah.
right? And if you're going to divide that by 750 milliliters in the bottle, a regular pour is about 30, so you're going to get 15 glasses of that for $30.
Yeah, no.
And at any other store, it's going to be $10 to $15. No, thank you. And that's a 1 ounce. That's a single. It's not even a double.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time breaking the bank on that. Every once in a while,
I do too.
But I know for your birthday the one year we went to Chicago.
Yeah.
And you gave, was it Pappy 10 year?
They had 2 Pappies on there. One was like $100 for that tiny pour. The other was more expensive. I went with like the $100 one, so it was probably the less aged one, the more common one. There's one of those things just like we gotta try, and obviously pass it around, let everyone have a go at it to say they tried the Pappy, but law of diminishing returns, very real. It wasn't that special.
Yeah, it's Buffalo Trace has obviously they're doing the right thing. They've blown up
down to a science, yeah.
And so we were just talking not too long ago. I got that bottle of Stag Junior while I was traveling for work because it was a barrel. Well, Stag is always barrel proof, but it was a store pick, and so it's a single barrel. And so Stag Junior is typically a blended barrel proof, 9 or 10 year age statement typically. And
so why don't you explain barrel proof, the blended, that stuff? Because I think I've only explained maybe barrel proof lightly in passing once, maybe I didn't.
So barrel proof really just means that once they drop the white dog or basically the original distillate into the barrel, for it to be Kentucky bourbon, it has to be aged in newly charred American oak barrels for a minimum of 4 years under the Bottled and Bond Act. And a barrel proof version of that would be they can't cut it with any water or
just straight from the barrel.
It's just straight from the barrel. It's uncut, and you get, at least in my opinion, after drinking for multiple years now that a lot of different bourbons, I think you get a lot more flavor. And when they cut it down, again, I don't have the palate of some of these guys at the distilleries, but when you cut it down, I feel like it takes away from some of the viscosity and how it coats your palate and a whole host of flavors that you might not have gotten. And then if you are getting barrel proof and you don't like how hot it is, for instance, you can add a couple of drops of water and that totally changes the profile, or they say it opens it up. So it really just kind of depends on what you like to drink, and there's no wrong way to drink it. Everybody's like, I like it with an ice cube. So what?
Yeah,
I like it with an ice cube, then you like it with an ice cube.
Exactly.
I happen to drink quicker when that happens.
No, same. Yeah.
Chase the taste is what my coworker says.
Yeah, I try to slam it before it gets too diluted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like, you don't get anything. I mean,
Right.
It's just kind of like, this is a gross water.
But what are you reaching for next?
Did you just have the barrel vantage?
I haven't. I stopped only at the last one.
Crack into that. That stuff's special.
Give us from that.
I'm pretty sure that I don't know too much about Barrel, other than they're kind of like an experimental company. They have done a lot of different projects, like the Barrel Infinite project is something we tried not too long ago. Barrel Vantage, they do a lot of finished bourbons, and so that Barrel Vantage is, I think it says on the label there if you want to read it.
Yeah, it is a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys finished in Mizunara, probably butchered that, French and toasted American oak. And we're dealing with almost 116 proof. So it's gas.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bluegrass toasted.
Yeah.
But this flavor profile is a little bit different. I get a lot of honey. I get some oak, and then on the back end, I'll get some heat.
Oh, sorry.
It does go a little hot. But this was, I think, the number 3 bourbon of last year or 2021.
It's got a real sweet nose to it.
It's awesome. I mean, it's kind of sneaky for being that high of proof. Being, what did you say it was like?
It's 115 spot 88. So 116.
It's not overly hot. But yeah, it's got a good nose. It coats the palate really well. I'm a big fan of what Barrel's doing. In fact, I just had an opportunity to purchase a bottle of Barrel Seagrass 16-year. So it's their gray label.
16-year?
It's a 16-year-old Canadian rye that is, I think it's aged, I can't remember what barrels they aged that in. That's a very rare release, and the MSRP on it's about $260. I was able to purchase it for $160 through
that new homeowner discount, baby.
Actually, I bought it because normally, I bought that Stag Junior for $200. If anybody knows anything about the secondary market for bourbon, it's insane.
That I know nothing of.
I don't really dive into it. A lot of people.
And also, what's like the legality of it? Like, how are you as an individual able to just go on like a marketplace and resell?
So I know for a fact that Facebook Marketplace, you have to have code letters, code words, emojis, all sorts of stuff.
Oh, so you just straight can't.
You can't. I mean, they're pretty lax on it as long as people are kind of, I don't know, you have to be invited to a lot of the groups, and then there's a whole verbiage that you have to learn.
It's like you're actually bootlegging.
You're pretty much bootlegging. It's a secondary market where it's all cash. Everybody's like, it's a mutual respect kind of thing. It's cash or trades, and so you kind of have to learn how to work that market. And one of my buddies down here, he is real big into that, and he's traded for like a Weller. What is it? CYPB, Create Your Perfect Bourbon or something like that.
Oh, really?
They release it once a year. It's a white label Weller.
I know the blue label is,
the full print is
yeah.
pretty hard to come by. I mean, we live in the States where it's a little bit more difficult to obtain that kind of stuff. And anywhere really. I mean, Weller full proof doesn't last on the shelf very long. I mean, now you have to fight lines of people. They call them bourbon fairies or whatever. They're lining up.
You don't have to be politically correct and call them whatever they actually call them. Okay.
Fairies.
That seemed a little light.
Yeah, I mean, these guys line up at 6 a.m. outside of the liquor store on a Tuesday morning because they know the truck's coming. And it's like,
they ain't got no jobs.
I mean, well, some of these people purchase them at MSRP, and then
this is their job.
I don't know if it's their job necessarily, but they make an extra buck off of it. And if you work from home, which most people do these days, or at least on a hybrid system, if you want to get up at 6 a.m. and do it, by all means, go and do it. But for me, I would rather get in the gym at 6 a.m. And
dude, I've been missing that. I can't. My gym doesn't offer classes early enough before I gotta clock in. Okay. Which sucks. I gotta go afterward, which is always
it's brutal. It's a mental stress.
Finding the energy and the motivation to go. When you're in the habit, it's not bad, but there are days where it's just a tough day, or you're in a rut, or you're just tired and you sleep well the night before, and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna get kicked in the head today.
How am I gonna have massive strength to get out there and get after it? It's been tough, and even with the home ownership stuff and how much work I
Can't
do
even
and
imagine.
everything, it's hard to get yourself like getting into a new gym. So I moved to a new area again.
Oh yeah, I have that on there too. I want to go into that, but go ahead.
Canceled an old membership. Just got a new membership, and this new place is very Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah,
School iron.
oh yeah.
A lot of machines. Dudes are roided up there.
Oh really?
They're all cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never had issues with them, and it's like those guys are there to lift weights. So
Sure.
even if it's busy and you go up there like, "Hey man, can I work in with this?" They're pretty reasonable about it.
Cool.
Very Arnold-esque kind of weightlifting scene. Whereas before, I was at more of a commercial gym and kind of like influencer city and shit. And
We can say it was Crunch.
yeah, it's Crunch Fitness.
Which I mean, better than Planet Fitness by a mile.
Oh yes,
I mean, same price and you get so much more out of it.
I would argue it's probably better than LA Fitness, just because
the LA Fitness near me, where I just moved in, it is
right now.
it's just the Planet Fitness near me. I mean, LA Fitness near me is like stuck in the 80s. It feels like the lighting is terrible. The machines are ancient. The free weights are ancient, and it's just not.
Yeah.
I was like, you pay how much?
Yeah,
$200 a month. I was like,
it's $30. I mean, whatever they try. Sometimes they get promos, but it's like there's initiation fees and there's all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
The gym I go to now has, I mean, in an LA Fitness, I mean, a standard LA Fitness probably has 2 or 3 bench presses and maybe 2 squat racks and a bunch of machines.
You know, that entire area was so full when I went to try it out for free one day. I didn't even get a good count. Yeah, I went in there. I was like, oh, I see how this is gonna be. I'm gonna like get some cardio and maybe hit the bag and then just get out of here because I'm not joining.
I have worked out at a wide variety of gyms, and actually I used to work out at an MMA gym, and that was my favorite gym because those people are there. They're on a mission.
Yeah.
They're not bothered. My only complaint was that it was much larger in the area I was living in, a much larger MMA gym, and so BJJ classes were fucking packed. Like you could, for me at least, like I think a good class size for jiu-jitsu, depending on what your goals are, if you're competitive, you probably want better competition.
Yeah.
You probably want more people in the class.
Yeah.
But from a teaching standpoint, I think there's a threshold. And once you get past like 15 people in class, maybe 16, because you're partnering up with everybody, the instructor can only focus so much on one thing at a time. And in an hour and a half lesson or class, it's hard for him to get to everything and focus on everything. So you're kind of relying on other people to teach you. And there are good teachers out there, but then there's also idiots who are like violently shaking, trying to choke you out.
Yeah.
And you know who you are if you're one of those people. Stop it. I actually rolled with an ex-Marine one time, and this dude was a wrestler. So he was like a brown belt from Thailand, but when he got him on his back, he was very much so a white belt. So wrestlers always know how to put the pressure on.
Yeah.
They're good with their top line submissions, and so the one time he very aggressively tried to go for the takedown, and he just tucked his head literally right under my armpit. So
Thank you.
Immediately just put him in a guillotine, dropped him down, and he was concussed. And I mean, because he fell so hard. I mean, like I just had him locked up, and he fell on the top of his head, and he just knocked out immediately. Went like total wet asparagus on the ground, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Guy was bigger than me. He was a cop. Dude was he was a savage. And so there's got to be a balance between getting into class, having a good amount of people, and having good people to roll with. And you kind of like once you get into it, for those of you who don't do jiu-jitsu, I highly recommend it. But or any martial art, really, you know who the good sparring partners are, who you match up with well, and stick with those people. And you want to always get a different look at things. You want somebody who's shorter, who throws a really hard leg kick like in Muay Thai, or somebody who really challenges your spacing, your distance. Versus in jiu-jitsu is the same kind of thing. Somebody who, like you, would have a lot of leverage because you're a taller guy. I'm more of an average height, and so I have to rely on a lot more technique. but I'm also a little bit more built too. So there's things that I have to do differently, and it's always just a puzzle and trying to figure out where your game fits, where it's weak, and it's a humbling experience. I mean,
It's funny. I'm glad you actually brought it up naturally because the episode I just recorded yesterday. Yeah, it was National Bourbon Day yesterday. I ended it with my experience joining the MMA gym and just kind of going into like sparring partners, and the guys who come in with the ego very quickly when it's your turn to roll or to kind of just even drill with them even. Yeah, don't go in with an ego. I think one, you're just that asshole that no one wants to go with, or if you do end up going with someone who knows what they're doing, they'll hurt you. And not with like malicious intent, but to like teach you a lesson. Really,
you'll get along.
yeah.
I mean, super quickly.
But also, you're not going to really learn as quickly. I think if you go in with I'm just going to murder everybody mentality right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I saw that. I think a lot of the guys who, as a taller gentleman, I got kind of paired with a lot of taller guys, bigger and heavier guys too, who are capable of doing a lot of damage, and they come in just trying to wail. And when you're not expecting it, it catches you off guard. And you're like, okay, got me once, good for you. It happens again. You're like, okay, we're going for real now. Got it. I don't know if you've had this. You ever like either like, well, you mostly jujitsu. So you ever rolled with like a girl who was just 100%?
I've rolled with some
significant others in the room, so tread lightly, I guess.
Thank you very much. Yeah. No, we rolled. So yeah, her name was Cindy. She was a former
Cindy.
Former Army veteran.
Oh boy,
total badass.
Yeah.
She would show up to class wearing a Joker rash guard. I'm like,
oh boy,
like, this lady is fucking nuts. I was like, I want to roll with her. Kicked my ass. She was a purple belt.
Okay. What were you at the time?
White belt.
Okay.
I mean, very new white belt. But I knew, I was like, I kind of went in with the mindset that I don't know shit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to know shit. Right. And I want her to teach me something.
Yep.
And she was probably all of 120 pounds. And
Jeez.
she was able to slip, her arms are skinny. She was able to slip her arms in and sink chokes on me all the time. And so she would just give me pointers about, how bad I was on my back.
Yeah.
Just like different things you can do to kind of give yourself leverage and get yourself into like half guard and all that kind of stuff. But then I also rolled with, some girls that just were there and totally timid because they had been attacked.
Yeah.
So they were like, I want to do self-defense stuff, but I'm a little bit nervous to even like make a move. So then it's like, it's like wrestling with a toddler almost. Like it's very awkward.
I'm sure. We had when I say I am very new, and I mentioned this in the last recording, to the jiu-jitsu world. I started with no-gi, and I mean brand new as in only 5 classes maybe so far. So I couldn't even tell you like the terms of some of the stuff we're doing, but the leverage and knowing like just how that works was mind blowing to me. I was getting thrown around and moved by dudes who were significantly shorter and lighter than me, and I couldn't believe how easy they made it look. Like just moving arms or getting me off like into certain positions, I couldn't believe how effortless these guys made it look. And I was like, I'm a fish out of water, and again, still very new, so still learning how it works and really what to look for and how to apply it. But that was just I was the first thing came to mind. I was like, holy fuck! If these guys actually wanted to start a problem and they got a hold of me, like I'd be in some serious shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lot of people recommend doing jiu-jitsu first because most fights do end up on the ground.
Right. If someone grabs you, like
it's grappling.
It's there, Striking is not as effective when it's that close,
So you were just mentioning that you were getting tossed around, and you get put into some positions sometimes where you're just like, I feel like a total Berlin pretzel, like I'm like in the worst position possible, or you're in a certain position and somebody sinks a choke, and you're like, they don't quite have the choke, or the choke's on your jaw, and you're like, okay, just
Doesn't
breathe.
feel great.
Just breathe, just relax. There's nothing else you can think about, which
Right.
is why I think it's so therapeutic. And it sounds totally fucked up to be like,
Don't black out.
yeah,
So let the lights go out. Yeah.
don't give up. And so I read Breathe by Hicks and Gracie.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really good book because a lot of it is kind of touting his career. And yes, he was one of the very best ever, probably the very best ever, other than Gordon Ryan now, who's right it up. But Hicks and Gracie was totally natural. He was around when the UFC first started getting put into motion. But he talks about how, like during his camps and stuff, when he was fighting in Japan, he would go up into the mountain range. He would unplug completely. He would be separated from his family. Dude was divorced, but he would separate from his family. Wouldn't be in contact with anyone. He would go out.
He found the divorce plus feature.
The divorce plus. He would go out on trail runs. He would go out and fish for his own fish. Like he was like, it's therapeutic because I'm training very hard. I'm training at elevation. And I'm just like getting my mind ready for 4 to 6 weeks before that's like their fight camp period. And he'd just be there with his trainer, and it was like all it was eat, sleep, and breathe. What I do, and get into a mindset where I'm going to go in and I'm going to fucking rip somebody's head off, respectfully.
Everything's better with respectfully. Yeah.
So, but yeah, circling it back. Jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. I got into boxing a little bit as well, striking. So once I got very close to my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and then I had moved again, of course. So I was looking for a new gym, and they did boxing and they did jiu-jitsu, and I wanted to learn some striking. I hadn't really been in a whole lot of fights growing up. I've been in a couple of one-hit fights, but that's pretty much it. And
thankfully.
Thankfully, it didn't turn into anything. Actually,
usually you don't catch much of a case in a one hit.
Yeah,
the fight. Yeah,
exactly. So got into boxing, and that was a little bit of like a cardio challenge versus actually learning how to strike and learning how to spar. And I was going to talk to you about this too. Is in sparring, like we talked about good partners and bad partners, and getting your fucking head bashed in during sparring.
Yep.
And the lessons that you learn just from sparring alone is you can't even speak on it. It's so hard to explain sometimes because it's just an entirely different world. You can drill all you want.
Yep.
When you step in the ring and you start sparring with somebody, shit's real. We talked about how some guys go really fucking hard right off the rip.
Yeah.
We talk about doing sparring like 50%. We're doing 50% light punches. And so I was curious with your Muay Thai experience, how many times do you guys start off? It's like 50, 60%, and then somebody throws a little bit harder with the light kick, and you're like, oh, okay.
For me, it's been the second you start even like drilling with a certain partner, you know if they're gonna be a problem.
Okay.
At least from what I found. And by problem, I don't mean they're kicking too hard. And like, because in the classes, you know, you're going to have people who have actually taken on fights, and I've mentioned this. I've actually seen some of these guys fight with other people, like in an actual ring, like for a record. And those guys will kick hard, but you know, like they're in control. Okay. There are guys who will kick hard out of control because they're thinking like, I'm just going to hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care about my form, my timing, my balance, my distance. My goal is just to hit this person as hard as I can. I don't care about anything else. And that you pick that up very quickly. And even I've been pretty hurt by some of these fighters. I think there was one drill we were working on just like clinching, and working on knees, like in the clinch, going for like, you know, liver shots, like, you know, abdominal shots with the knees. And I caught 2 very hard knees between the legs in like a 2-minute period, to where I sat out. I could not stand up for the rest of the class, but I knew that the guy was with us, I actually fought like a couple times. And he was throwing some hard hits, but like I could tell that it was like coming from a good place. Like he wasn't out of control. You know, he was shorter than me. He was heavier than me though. And so the height thing was a little bit of a thing, but I could tell that, you know, he wasn't being reckless with it.
Gotcha.
Conversely, when it came time to spar with a newer individual at one point, a much smaller kid. I mean,
younger than me by probably 5+ years, twig of a kid, very small, and I'm not going to come out and just start railing. Like, I'm going to very much focus on my fundamentals and make sure my defense is tight in that situation, make sure I can space them out well, because at that point, I'm really going to focus on taking advantage of my reach advantage, playing strong defense and just kind of blocking them out, because my goal is to light them up in class. I'll look for holes and I'll hit them where, I see an opening. But this dude just came straight down the pipe, swinging and hit me, licked me a couple times in the face really hard, like much harder than he should have. I was like, all right. And then just when I just lit him up for like the rest of the round, then he switched and he got to an actual like fighter. And this dude actually put him on the ground and continued to beat him because he was trying to prove a point. Because after the round was over, he was like, hey man, you gotta cool it. Like, that's not what we're doing here. Like, he's like, I'm not like trying to be a dick or anything. That was teach you a lesson, basically. I didn't have that in me. I just wailed on him, which probably wasn't the right thing to do. But it was one of those things where, like, very quickly, instantly when you're with someone who's just like, I'm gonna be a problem.
The pros like time to go to therapy.
Yeah, he put I kicked him, pretty good. I returned, with some decent punches to the face. And then just basically kept them outside for the rest of the round. But the pro just unloaded. He just let him have it.
That's fun to watch.
I mean, the noises too were just hearing it coming out of that corner. I was like, oh yeah, he's eating them.
That's funny.
Then, I mean, another thing though too is that, like, all these new guys come in and basic hygiene gets ignored.
Okay, clip your nails.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know if I have a picture. I may be able to share it here. But at one point, my right shoulder looked like, ground beef. And it was just bleeding like crazy because someone didn't clip their toenails. And we were working on blocking head kicks. And, his shin, is hitting my forearm, but his toes were like hitting my shoulder, my bicep area. At one point, I'm like, oh, I'm bleeding. That's weird. And it kept more and more cuts started forming until my arm was just shredded alive. I was like, I need a new partner. I can't, unless you cut your fucking nails. I can't do it with you.
Not only is it disgusting, but too, it's just like that. Your nails carry so much dirt. Right?
Yeah. I got home and cleaning that out was great. So I scrubbed that shit for like 3 minutes with rubbing alcohol. I didn't have peroxide. I just kept rubbing alcohol. I was like, here we go.
That's like I got ring probably 2 years ago now. And that took forever to go away. But that's just, that's a little bit different. But still, I mean, you can get infected from stuff like that. And it's like,
oh yeah,
not only for your own nails and your own health, but for other people, you need to be considerate of other people. Just, take care of your shit.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
No. So we've been rambling now. I don't know when we cut it, but we're in 40 minutes into the basing session here. I guess, lightning round, because I have some opinions on this. So you travel a lot for work.
Okay.
And so I want to know, because you probably got some decent insight into this. What car signals the worst driver to you when you see it? You can give me like your Mount Rushmore of worst drivers behind the wheel of X car.
Definitely always a Chevy Malibu. Chevy Malibu's
Chevy
probably takes the crowd.
The Malibu, really?
Yeah, Malibus and Impalas, older Impalas, they're pretty brutal.
The 2008, 2010 period Impalas, yeah.
Yep, they're always fucking busting up. Yeah, going around them too. They're still pushing 85.
Yeah.
Definitely, I would say, something about Chevy trucks. Too.
Thank you, Chevy. I've always held Chevy drivers are in the category of worst drivers, but I think a Chevy Cruze is the poor man's Bugatti. They jump behind the wheel and they're like, oh, I can fucking break the sound barrier, and off I go. No blinker, braking's optional, honking's mandatory, and off we go.
I hate Range Rovers too.
Ooh, some bourgeois hate. All right.
Yeah. It's because most of the time those people have husbands that pay for it, and they don't themselves know how to drive. And it's either moronic, slow people, or
they were driving way too fast
Yeah.
and just flooring. It's one of those things where it's like if you were driving behind them, it would be flooring, brakes,
Yeah.
flooring, brakes constantly. It's just like, can you fucking stop
Yeah.
and just keep a reasonable distance between somebody else?
So you got the Malibu / Chevy, Range Rovers. Anything else?
It depends.
She's got a point.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Some Jeeps are really bad.
Absolutely. As a regular driver, I will fully own my community sucks at driving.
Compass is pretty bad. Those new Wagoneers, I mean, people try and
They look great though.
They look great, sure. But people drive them pretty recklessly. I gotta say, where I live though, I mean, it's like the Daytona 500 all the fucking time, and there's always a car on fire on it. So,
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you recognize this, but the meme of like the Hood Altima or the Hood Maxima, those Nissans, very, very true. Those cars, similar to the Cruise, very cheap, very affordable. So the people driving, I really think don't care about like driving experience or actual upkeep of their vehicles. So you see those things just hauling ass down the freeway, different colored bumpers, doors, seeing how many traffic laws they can violate from getting from point A to point B. So they're up there with the Cruise for me, and I haven't seen as many of them. But for a long time, Honda Odysseys were right up there with some of the worst drivers because those are just your soccer moms, man. They don't give a fuck.
tell you what, my dad drove a Honda Odyssey.
I knew. I was hesitant to say that because I remember you telling me that. And I was like, I'm gonna shed some Honda Odyssey hate here.
Well, and you have a very valid reason behind that. My dad had, well, it really wasn't his car. He bought it because I grew up with multiple siblings and we take family trips from time to time. But the 02 Honda Odyssey, it was I think it was a fucking tank, man. I mean, it went
Invincible.
My dad could drive too. He was the kind of guy, kind of like your dad. He grew up tinkering on cars and doing whatever he could to him. He didn't have a lot of money. His dad died very young. So he was doing paper routes, working 3 restaurant jobs, getting through high school and all that shit. And he had an old Cutlass.
Hell yeah.
I think it was a 77 old Cutlass, and he had I can't remember what else he had, but he was always fixing up cars, working on cars. And when he was dating my mom in high school, like the car would break down, and he's like, you always have to push it too. You know, it would be raining. He's like, of course, it's the worst time ever. I'd have to push it to somebody's house or try to get it to a close gas station. And he's like, if you didn't know the area, you were kind of straight because you had, it's either you had maps or you had maps or you had you know, your brain basically.
Yeah.
So
also, what a real one for sticking with your dad through the broken down cars.
Yeah,
that's a nightmare scenario.
Oh yeah, and especially you know, she's not a tomboy. She doesn't cars on me like that. So for her to just kind of sit there, I mean, I give him props. My dad, I mean, he always got through it. Dude's smarter than the time, so
yeah,
you're sharper than the time, I should say. But yeah, he had the 02 Honda Odyssey, and he had the 08, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he had an 08 that lasted a little less long. He's now into a Honda Pilot, and he's been a Honda shooter for a long time. He had a Mazda at one point, and I think it was a sedan. I don't know exactly what the model was.
3 or the 6. Oh, the 90s. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it was a 90s Mazda. And he was driving in a snowstorm, and there was a snow plow that was on the wrong side of the road. And actually, he ended up veering off, and he smashed the car. And
shit!
He had a bunch of issues with like the Mazda dealership and stuff. They were being real nasty to him. I find it to this day.
Mazda, really?
Mazda leases, they'll fucking ding you, and they will. I mean, they say like on your lease is what? It's like the size of a quarter for a man. Yeah,
right.
You know, a couple inches per scratch or something like that. But they really hold you to it. And they'll be totally rude to you when you're trying to turn your
interesting.
Yeah, they're trying to turn your lease.
And I think I really want like one of the new Mazda CX-6s as my next car. I've seen someone like lift it a little bit, get some larger tires on it. It looks badass.
I think that's where I'm going next, honestly.
I've heard they're very easy to work on.
Yeah.
You can swap out a lot of parts. One of the guys, when I was interning many moons ago, one of the guys I worked with, he had bought an old, I think early 2000s Mazda little sedan. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
And he toyed around with it so much. It was a stick. It was funny because he was just learning to drive a stick, and we were going to lunch one day, stalled in the middle of an intersection, so something on to and everybody's kind of laughed.
I love those Miatas.
They're fun. I mean,
They're great cars.
It's a little drop time. They're very light. So, I mean, just a small upgrade in horsepower really feels like a major difference.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You said it was a CX-6?
Yeah, there's a crossover sort of SUV thing that they got.
Slightly larger or smaller than the CX-5?
It'd be a little larger.
Okay, because the CX-50 I saw looks pretty mean. It's like their sport package.
CX-50.
Yeah,
Interesting. I'm not as familiar with their new models, I will admit, but as new as I can get. I think the new Mazdas are great.
Yeah,
If the sleek sort of sharp look, I think they look great.
They've done a good job.
Yeah.
So, and actually, my significant other's looking at upgrading her vehicle because she's in a Jeep Compass currently, and it was the biggest piece of dog shit she's ever had. From the stock tires that they put on it that went bald at 30,000 miles.
Nice.
I mean, it's a lease, so you're not really going to buy a car.
I'm a Jeep owner, and I talk shit about Chrysler quality. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, the car at 5,000 miles electronically died. There was nothing wrong with the mechanics of the car. Yeah, when we were supposed to move into our new apartment. It was
How convenient.
New Year's Day. Yeah, her car wouldn't turn on. So, or it did, but everything was like blank. It was just a disaster. She had to get it to the dealership. They had to do like a system reset on it. It was good until about, I think it happened to get at 17 or 19,000 miles. Same kind of issue happened. Had to have it done again. More electrical issues now. Her key fob is very spotty. Replaced the battery. She's used a different key fob. Still doesn't make a sound when she locks the car.
Interesting.
It's necessarily locked. It used to be when it locked, but it doesn't anymore. Yeah, and those tires are dog shit. I had to try and attach. It's close enough to the sidewall where it's considered like unrepairable.
Yeah.
But I passed it anyways, and so we've been just milking the hell out of them.
Oh, as you should.
Inflating it every couple of days, trying to get to hold pressure, just until we get into a new vehicle. But I hate to say it, but Kia's killing the game right now.
The Koreans are having a bit of a moment. Hyundai and Kia both making some great cars, great looking cars too.
We test drove a Hyundai Tucson, and she liked it. It's more of a crossover than people think. It's just lower. It's still more like sedan, but it's responsive, tight on the steering wheel. And then we went and I think we test drove a Kia Sportage, which was just redesigned for 2023. Very comfortable driving. Brakes are really nice. Again, the steering is very tight. Feels very responsive. Plenty of horsepower. It's not super heavy. And the interior space, like we obviously travel a lot. We have two dogs.
Yeah.
Fitting the dog crates in the trunk is actually realistic in this car versus the Compass, and it's not that much larger. The storage is fantastic. The seats are fantastic. It's like one continual HD screen on the actual dashboard, going between your speedometer and your like infotainment system. So, and I'm gonna tell you right on
excellent cars.
Through my company, I'm gonna tell you right on her, and they're fantastic. I can't say other than the recall that ended up being a serpentine belt. There was like 20,000 serpentine belts that went into 2022s, I think, that were that batch. I was actually one of the very first to have that snap on me. Other than that, and Kia did right by me. They put in an aftermarket belt, and they didn't charge me anything for the OEM. I was like, I can't be down for 6 weeks to get an OEM belt. First of all, And second of all, I was just like, I don't care what you guys put in it. I'm not paying for it. You guys take care of it. And they're like, yeah, we got it. So
Hell yeah.
we took care of it. It's painless. And ever since I've got 42,000 miles on the car, it's a 22. I've driven a lot. But it's been great. It's comfortable. Seats are great. I've taken it multiple road trips. I was just out in Pennsylvania this week for work. And yeah, like I said, it's a great vehicle.
Hell yeah. No, they look great. I know the interior is great as well. And I know we're running a little long here, and your Taco Bell just arrived, so I don't want that to get too cold. To wrap it up, though, what would your, I don't know, maybe give some man or some stoic advice here to kind of end things. I won't call it dad advice. Too many people are using dad advice. Garand from the Art and War podcast. So I'm not going to steal them, but maybe some stoic man advice.
Stoic man advice. Trust the process. Would be probably my biggest piece of advice. If things don't make sense, that's okay. We're always constantly figuring things out, and things are constantly moving. They're constantly in flux. And so while we're battling things internally, be able to adjust to the fluctuations in life and just continue to move forward with things, knowing that you're doing the right thing. I kind of bring it back to the stoplight or their stop sign analogy. It's like, are you doing the right thing? And hold yourself accountable. Like, just check the accountability mirror. I'm a big David Goggins fan.
Yeah. They don't know me.
Different fucking animal. He's built different, but
Clinically.
Go ahead and read his book, Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished. Fucking phenomenal books. And talks about trauma. Everybody's got some kind of trauma, but how you handle it, how you work with it, how you deal with it is all a different story. And continue to challenge yourself. If you're not challenging yourself to grow, then you're kind of wasting your time. I mean, don't be stagnant. Get up and do something. Make yourself useful. Be a good friend. Continue to communicate with people and just put yourself out there. Like, don't pull yourself up and be like a fucking hermit. Life is finite and it happens very quickly. So, do with it what you will, but make the most of it.
Yeah, man. I think, well, touched on a lot there, but I think absolutely trust the process is a big one right now. And you mentioned just like getting up and doing something. I think I'll sort of tie that in with like discipline. Do the sucky thing, and you'll find that you'll derive more purpose from life and whatever it is. At the same time, enjoy life too, and you'll find that by being disciplined, you will enjoy life because of that. I forgot who the Stoic was who said it. Like, moderation is the thing that provides like the spice, like, in life, and discipline obviously will bring about a moderate lifestyle. So I guess, to not ramble on, enjoy your life, have fun, do the fun stuff, but hold yourself accountable and be disciplined. Get up early, challenge your mind, challenge your body, do the things that you may not want to do, but are good for you. And you'll find that the fun things, going out, enjoying this great bourbon or the cigars that we had, are just that much better because you're able to reward yourself basically. And then to share the advice that just Dan's significant other passed over to me. It's simple. Love your woman, enjoy your whiskey, and savor your cigar. And on that note, stay metal. Thank you.